Hello, YouTube. So today I want to talk about abandoned maps. Now, what do I mean by abandoned maps? Well, sometimes when you're making a Doom snap map, uh, even with the best of intentions, sometimes you start making a map, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. And then you're faced with a decision of, well, do I just power through and just kind of hope for the best and finish the map, good or bad, and just publish it? Or do I just sort of cut my losses and just move on to something else? Well, I'm going to show you the maps that I started making, but for one reason or another, I decided it was best to just abandon them. And so I'm going to be showing you a bunch of just basically like partially completed maps. The maps that never were, the maps that never had a chance. And many of them for good reason, as you'll find out. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, why are you showing us a bunch of junk maps, a bunch of uncompleted garbage? Well, you might think of it that way, but I think a lot of people, this channel is more tailored towards fellow snap map editors specifically. So I think if you're an editor, you might have several maps of your own that you've never finished. So you could probably relate to what I'm going to show you. So I just thought it'd be something different to do, just for fun, for whoever cares to see it. So this first map, I just called it Castle. And it's basically that. I actually started making this map after I played Solomon's Temple. That was sort of the inspiration to make it. And as you can see, it's very similar to Solomon's Temple. It's in a grid room. It's got, the solid colored floor, and there's all these different rooms to it. The player would have started out in this room here, and they basically just, as you move through to new rooms, it spawns monsters. You kill those monsters, it opens up the door to the next room, and you just move through all these different courtyards here. The main selling point from this map would have just been like that there's a lot of secrets in it. And so like right here, there's a piece of skin, and you jump through it, and there's a tunnel, and you're in a secret room, and of course there's secrets within secrets, right? So like you go through this cross, there's a switch that opens up the wall back here, and then there's more stuff you can jump through and exit the door, or you can climb, or you can shimmy the wall, and there's another set of secrets. But it's basically just secrets within secrets. But I started making this map, and then it was like I just lost interest because at best it just would have been another Solomon's Temple, and I didn't really. I kind of just wanted to move on to something different. So I just kind of lost interest in this map. I don't think it would have been a bad map. It just wouldn't have been anything new. So, yeah. Just a Solomon's Temple clone is essentially what it would have been. So, let me show you something else. Okay, this map here I call the Rubik of Mystery. Why? Because it's basically just a big puzzle map. So it's basically you're in this giant cube, right? And there's all these different floors, and each floor has a puzzle that you need to solve. Because what you need to do is, the goal is that in each floor you have to get to the exit. If you get to the exit, it teleports you to the next floor up. And the next floor up has a new challenge, and so on and so forth until you reach the top. So like in this bottom floor, you press the switch and it plays a melody, and each of these pads plays a different note, and you basically have to figure out a way to play the melody by hitting the pads, and then if you get the right one, it'll unlock the door. This next one is basically you press any of these switches and it opens the exit. because the exit is blocked by a blocking volume here that keeps you from going in. It disables that, but each of these, you only get so much time to run to the exit before it turns back on again. And the thing is, only one of these switches would have disabled it long enough for you to run there. All these other ones, you would have been like a tenth of a second too slow or something. So kind of a dumb puzzle. And this just would have been a box that slides from one side of the room to the other, back and forth, and changes colors. It basically does nothing besides distract you, and occasionally get in your way. This next room is you grab a couple of power cells from here, and you put them into the empty power cell unit, and each one of these units would have represented a certain color. So you'd have like red, yellow, and blue. And the whole point is, once you put the cell into the unit, if it's the red unit, well then this door turns red. If it's yellow, the door turns yellow. Blue door turns blue. The key here though is, because you've got two cells, you could put one in a red and one in a blue, and it would turn the door purple. Or red and yellow turn the door orange. And you basically have to figure out that you want to turn the door green, because that's the outline of the door. And once you've figured that out, then the door opens and you run through it. And the next level is basically you just got a bunch of portals. You got to find out which one's the exit. Sort of like in Gauntlet. And then this room, it would have appeared to have been completely empty. But as you run through, there's these invisible volumes that you can run into. And as you run into these volumes, it creates a beeping noise. And as you get closer and closer to the center volume, the beep gets more and more frequent. It's basically kind of like hot or cold, like getting warmer, getting cooler, getting warmer, getting cooler. But once you get to the center volume, and the beeping is like, really frantic, and then it unlocks that. Then it unlocks the exit. But basically, it would just kind of be like you figuring out, what the hell am I supposed to do in this room? And then you just sort of stumble into there. Okay, this next room up here just would have been a labyrinth. Basically, you hit the switch, it opens the labyrinth, you run through it, you try to get to the exit before the exit gets disabled. Or get to the exit before the blocking barrier goes back up. And each time you hit the switch, it changes the maze so that it's not the same maze every time. There's like 4 different versions of that maze. So, yeah, you basically are just trying to find your way through the maze before time runs out. The next level is you grab this rifle here, and it's basically just a gun range. You got targets that pop up in a certain sequence. You got to hit all the targets. If you get like 20 out of 20 or 40 out of 40, whatever it is, then it unlocks the exit. And then that's as far as I got. So basically, this just would have been a big puzzle map. But I abandoned it because I thought, well, this is Doom. I don't know how many people would be interested really in playing a puzzle game. And even so, I thought the puzzles were kind of lame, honestly. They weren't... They just weren't very creative, I thought maybe other people probably would have done a better job. Oh, by the way, let me just put this out. If anybody, you know what they say, I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So if any of these maps, if anybody watching this sees one of these maps that I am not going to publish, and you decide that, hey, actually that's a good idea, or, maybe I could make that work better, by all means, go ahead and try it, You've got my blessing. If you think you can take these basic concepts and make them good, then do it. Because, potentially it might be good. But I abandoned these maps because I didn't see... I couldn't see any potential in them. Or I just got bored and I felt like I couldn't carry it through. I mean, I think that to put in all the time and effort that's required to make a quality map, you really have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to be excited about what you're doing. And I just got to the point with this map where I just wasn't excited about it at all. and that's why I abandoned it. And that basically goes the same with all the other maps I'm going to show you. So that would have been the Rubik of Mystery, basically just climbing up all these different levels, solving puzzles. Eventually you'd get to the top and, I don't know, maybe there'd be a boss battle or something. So let me show you another map. Okay, this map is called Hide and Seek. Basically there's this big house here, and you climb into the house, and one person, it would have to necessarily be multiplayer. One person would be the seeker, everybody else would find a place in the house to hide, and then the seeker would have they would find you, right, by shooting you with a shotgun or so. I mean, I don't know how else you'd make somebody be found other than just shooting them or hurting them in some way. But essentially the seeker would just have to find all the hiders, and it was just going to be a house full of stuff, and you just find places to hide, essentially. And then people would trade off turns being the seeker. It's just hide and seek, basically, in a big house. And I got trees out here, and you can actually climb the trees and hide in the branches. And there's quite a lot of trees, actually. And there's a bunch of stuff that opens up, like you hide in the chimney, or you can open up the door here, go down into the cellar, maybe hide in the crawl space or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. This map just would have required a lot of time and effort to put in all the things into the house for you people to hide in. And then, there's another cellar underneath that one, just the dungeon, basically. I didn't even know what to put in it. I was like, I don't have any good ideas. But yeah, it just would have required a monumental effort. Back deck here. A little hide under the deck. Actually, originally this wasn't going to be hide and seek. This was going to be a almost like a Resident Evil type map, where it's basically just a big mansion, and there's like zombies and stuff and monsters that jump out at you, and it was going to be a horror map. And I started building this giant house, and then I found out for the first time, for me, that demons won't operate on top of blocking box surfaces. They can stand there and they can get shot at, but they won't actually run at you or attack you half the time. Unless they're a ranged demon, then they might shoot at you. But basically, my hopes for making a cool mansion with zombies that was totally custom geo, those hopes got dashed when I figured out that Snapmap had that flaw where the AI just gets disabled. So I'm like, oh hell, I can't finish the map now. So I decided at the last minute, like, wow, I'll just make it a hide and seek, But then it was like, I started working on it even more, and it's like it just would have taken a lot of effort to fill up a house, to build the house, number one, number two, to fill it with stuff to hide in, number three, to write all the logic, number four, to play test it, and then after all of that work, it would just be a hide and seek map. So I felt like my time was better served making something else that would be more appealing and fun. So I decided to abandon this map. So this map would have been hide and seek, but now it's just a house with trees. So let's look at something else. Okay, this map here is called Mountain Climber. Can you guess what it's about? Let me give you a hint. You climb a mountain. Yep. Let me show you. So you start out at the base of the mountain, and you basically just... Let me try to get to a surface where you can see. Yeah, so you start out at the base of the mountain, right here, and you just start climbing your way on up this mountain. And as you climb, you would encounter enemies, and you'd have to fight them. And you'd get to parts on the mountain where it's like, oh, I don't know where to go. I gotta find a different route to navigate up this mountain, and there would be like all these boxes that you'd have to climb onto and jump. Well, in my mind, it seemed like a cool idea, But in practice, just jumping up a mountain is actually just extremely boring. So this is one of those cases where it sounds cool in theory and in your imagination, but once you actually start playing it, you realize it's just not fun. And at that point, I decided to abandon it. But basically, it just would have been like, yeah, you climb up the mountain, and they're all in. This mountain is like, it's all custom geo in grid rooms. And as you reach the summit, it teleports you to a new grid room. And maybe there'd be like campfires or something where you light the fire and it creates a new save point. Like, oh, I better make camp for the night. Now, initially, I wanted to use the regular blocking box textures, but the problem is, when you use the regular textures, it just makes everything super dark. So, like, half of this map just would have been one giant shadow, and I don't know how to... It would have been just impossible, because, like, you can't have just your player jumping around in some shadowy darkness when they're trying to scale ledges and do really precise jumps. It would have been like, like if you've ever seen me play that map Recovery, and you're just jumping around in the darkness, and it's frustrating, that would have been this map. So the only way to make the blocking volumes visible was to change them to the classic geo textures from the original Doom, which is what you see here. Unfortunately, that just makes everything look like crap, in my opinion. For this type of a level, a mountain of crap is literally what it looks like to me. So, yeah, I just... It just wasn't worth my time to try to finish this project. Maybe somebody else out there can find a way to make it work. I say all more power to you. Go for it. But yeah, it just would have been jumping around, fighting monsters, climbing up this giant mountain. Yeah, I moved on to greener pastures. It wasn't worth my time to see this thing through. So let's check out another map. Okay, this map is called Power Rangers. And this is by far the worst map I ever tried to make. And you're about to find out why. I'm actually going to play what I had so far. And you'll realize right away why I quickly abandoned this idea. So, prepare to be amazed. Here it comes. You ready for Power Rangers? You ready? It's gonna be Power Rangers. Oh, here it comes. Oh, there's Zordon. So yeah, it might be kind of. I think you can understand why I didn't continue on with this map. Yeah, it just would have been the worst. Actually, this would have been Angel Grove if I could have finished it. I would have had like buildings and stuff in here. Oh. Time to fight the putties. They go down easy, just like in the show. Yeah, just awful. Actually, the thing that really made me abandon the map, it wasn't... what really made me abandon it was the fact that I couldn't get a cool sound. I wanted to have that custom Power Rangers sound. But for whatever reason, the Doom Snap Map gives you every instrument except an electric guitar. Which is stupid, because that's the one thing that would be the coolest thing to have. They give you like violin and trumpet and, all these woodwind instruments that you never hear about. But all I want is an electric guitar. I mean, how awesome would that be to make my custom sounds? But, the Power Rangers theme on anything other than an electric guitar sounds terrible. So, yeah, I couldn't go any further with that. It might have been interesting though if I could have. Um, but yeah, eh. So there you have it. There are some of the maps that the abandoned maps, the maps that never were. And if anybody else out there has has the inclination to try to like actually just take some of these ideas and make them work, I say go for it. You have my blessing. Um, and also, like, if you have maps of your own that you've abandoned, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Just talk about like what they were and kind of what you were planning to do with it, but then why you decided to abandon it. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your stories. What abandoned maps do you have of your own? I think it might be pretty interesting to know because I think sometimes most people who play the snap maps that other people make, they've never actually made their own snap maps. So they don't really have an appreciation of how much time and effort actually goes into making a map. Even just an average map, it is actually incredibly difficult and time consuming. So those of us who like to make snap maps of our own, you really have to be dedicated to making that map and seeing it through to the end and being excited and passionate enough about it to want to put in all the time and the effort that it takes to make a high quality map. So I think a lot of us have abandoned maps because we start making it and we just realize it just isn't gonna work. It's just going nowhere. Or that for whatever reason, like it just wouldn't be that good even if we did finish it. So yeah, share your stories. I just felt like doing something different. Normally I just do my reviews, but I thought this was like kind of an interesting thing that most people probably haven't talked about. So yeah, go ahead and leave your comments below. And as always, if you have a map you'd like me to for real play and review, go ahead and leave that in the comments as well. But yeah, abandoned maps, something that probably doesn't get talked about too often, I'd imagine. Anyway, until next time, peace out.